Welcome everyone to the next installment of our ongoing pediatric webinar series sponsored by the IQ Consortium. My name is Bob Turnick with Eli Lilly and Company, and will be the moderator for today. Our speaker today, Smita Salunke from University College of London and the EU-PFI, will be talking about the STEP database. Smita has a formulation science background with extensive experience in product development of oral solid and liquid dose forms, project management, product and services management, both in industry and academia. Since joining UCL, her research activities have been focused on excipients in pediatric formulations. She's motivated by a deep desire to address the issues and questions encountered by industry, hospitals, and governments on the acceptability of excipients in pediatric formulations. She is the creator of the Safety and Toxicity of Excipients for Pediatrics, or STEP database, which helps to address the safety and toxicity issues of excipients in pediatrics. Smita is also the Chief Scientific Officer of the European Pediatric Formulation Initiative and has been facilitating and providing strategic direction to the EU-PFI Consortium and identification and prioritization of unmet global needs and solutions in pediatric medicine since 2009. She leads the Indian Pediatric Formulation Initiative, the IPFI, and is currently working on novel excipients and co-creating wise solutions to global challenges and problems associated with formulating medicines for children in developing countries. As a reminder, there will be no pediatric webinars in July or August due to summer vacation months. However, please plan to join us for our September webinar, which will be given by Yogesh Patel on September 5th and is entitled Development of Pediatric Formulations, Considering Formulation and Regulatory Pitfalls. So with that, I'll go ahead and welcome Smita. And Smita, the web conference is yours.
Great, thanks Bob. Thanks very much for the kind introduction. And yeah, I must say thank you very much for the invitation, the opportunity to present the STEP database. I really hope that this session is helpful to the attendees and provides you the more insight into this STEP database, which kind of acts as a central repository, or is meant to be the central repository for the safety assessment of excipients for pediatrics. But before I go into the database, and okay, I'm trying to move my screen, but it's not okay. There you go. So before I go and talk about the database, just a bit of background on the EU-PFI, because I don't know how many of you here are aware of the EU-PFI. And if you're aware of it, please bear with me for a minute. It won't take too long. Basically, EU-PFI is a consortium. Before I say that, it's called as European Pediatric Formulation Initiative, and in short, we call it EU-PFI. So it's a consortium of members from the industry, academia, hospital, and regulatory agencies. And we kind of came together to discuss the issues and the challenges with the pediatric formulations. It was kind of established in 2007 in London, and we are based in London in UCL School of Pharmacy. We have, the way we work is that we've got these 5 work streams, which are kind of centered around the issues in the pediatric formulation development, which you can see here is excipients, devices, test masking, age-appropriate formulations, biopharm. And we've got the 5 work streams which are working on this with the 5 leads and chairs who kind of steer these different work streams within the group. We're trying to move from the, the initial kind of when the EU-PFI was set up, it was more to scope up the issues, write the reflection papers, position papers, and mainly to raise the awareness of these issues in the scientific and the domain. But now we are kind of moving from writing papers to more of a research-based agenda. So we will be doing some more active research as well, in addition to writing the papers in this field. Why, and what's the objectives and the missions of the EU-PFI? Well, we want to promote and facilitate the preparation of better and safer medicines for children, and we want to do this through mainly the interactive discussion. And I think so that is really helpful for us, is that we have got this forum where we have a discussion between the industry, academia, clinical, regulatory professional, everyone with a shared issues. And luckily we have the AMA as an observer on board, and who sits in, attends a meeting, and we kind of get the advice and so on, have a good discussion with them about the issues and how we can come up with the solutions to address those issues in pediatric formulation development. So the objective is mainly, as I said already, is to identify the issues and challenges, promote the early pharmaceutical consideration, identify potential information, knowledge know-how gaps, and improve the availability of the information which is really needed for the pediatric formulation, considering the new regulations, not very new now, but very recent regulation has come up. And so the information is kind of building up, and we need to kind of raise the awareness of this information, disseminate it, and we do that by the publications and mainly by the conferences. So we organize the conference every year, and this year we would have the conference in Sweden, which will be at 12th, Sweden, which will be our 11th, if I say, yeah, 11th conference of the EPFI. And yes, one of the main objective of the mission is also to network and linking with the other groups who are working on the similar issues and similar goals. So we have collaborated with IQ, EPTRI, and then the other networks such as USPFI, and where you've seen this product, the STEP database was actually developed in collaboration with the USPFI. So it's going strong so far, and we have been successful in in achieving objectives. So this is just a background to tell you that this is how we work. So we've got the work streams, we've got different memberships, and we meet twice in a year. The individual work stream members, they meet monthly via the teleconferences, and we have the annual conferences. So this is how we work. If you want more information about the EPFI, I've got the paper here. It kind of details on the objectives of each individual work streams, and it will give you more of the background on the EPFI, on what we are aiming to achieve further and the further objectives of the EPFI. This is just to give you the idea on who the members are. So we have got the big companies, the companies who are active in the pediatric formulation development, industry members, academia from Europe, from France, from Germany, from Bath, from Liverpool, and of course with the UCL School of Pharmacy leading it. We have got the association, which is IQ. I just mentioned that to you. IPEC is also one of our members, and it's really helpful to have that. The Excipient Council to discuss the excipient challenges in the pediatric formulation, so that certainly helps. In terms of the sponsors, we've got Pfizer and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They sponsored a part of the, which I will take you through, the excipients on the STEP database. And then, as I said, the European Medicines Agency, they are the observer on the board. So that was a bit of background on the EPFI. So moving into my agenda of the STEP database, what I thought was I'll take you through the, just to remind you the obviously known facts of the excipients, what are excipients, what they are not, then take you into the need of the excipients in pediatrics, and then take you into the bit of less obvious facts, is the selection of the excipients for the use in the context of the pediatric medicines, and justifying the role and how we use it and how we select it. So basically using the STEP database, I might be able to demonstrate on how the STEP database can help you in this process of the selection of excipients for pediatrics. Okay, so there you go. That's just a kind of a reminder is what excipients are and what they are not. So the evolution of the definition of the excipient has evolved right from the 1957, as you can see here, to 2011, where it was first known as a substance used as a medium for giving a medicament, but now it is more of a, but now it is more of any active ingredients that is added into the formulation or added into the finished dosage form and has been approved or has been appropriately evaluated for the safety, and it helps into the processing of the drug delivery system, manufacture, enhanced stability, and so on. So you can see the definition of the excipient has evolved. It is no more an inert ingredient. It is not known as an inert substance that is added to the formulation, but it has got any active ingredient or any substance that you add apart from your active ingredient into database, into the formulation, and has been evaluated for safety. Okay, so this is what it is not. It was regarded, the excipients were regarded as safe, but it is not. We know now that the excipients significantly affect the quality, bioavailability, and they may lead to the severe toxic and allergic reactions. And the good example for this is the diethylene glycol narrative. Obviously, there are some new examples as well, but I thought to give you this one, which kind of shows the history, a big history, right, from the 1937 to 2012, of the tragic moments that keeps on continuing, despite of the fact that we are now aware of it, and that we need to act on it soon. The scientific advances on this has kind of, and this tragedy basically has kind of promoted or motivated us to reconsider the role of the excipients and the safety and the effectiveness of the drugs. Okay. There you go. But whatever the fact is, we need excipients. Yes, they do. If we use them appropriately, we will be able to make best out of it. But we need excipients. We need them to. They kind of act as I call it as a supporting actor. I always say that as excipients are the supporting actors. Well, API is the main actor, but yes, the excipients does help us in administrating a drug in a administratable or the acceptable form to the patients. I think so. And it plays a very, very critical role in confirming the shape, in giving the stability, assuring the stability, preserves. It helps with the manufacturability, and hence that is very, very important, depending upon the route and the administration of the dosage form. It does help with enabling the bioavailability of the drug product, the therapeutic effect, and the acceptability. So it does favors the compliance by improving the drug taste and so on. So it is very, very important that we have we need the excipients in the dosage form. But we also need to look into the fact that it doesn't affect the quality, efficacy, or the safety. And when it comes to safety, it is mainly the safety of the children. And now, when it is novel excipient, we need to think about how does that affect, when it comes to novel excipient, how will that affect the safety of the children when there is very, very little data on the novel excipients at this stage. So that is something we need to take into consideration when we think of using the excipients into children. There is already, this is just for you to know that there is already that in the public domain, the consensus has already been raised on the use of the excipients in the neonates, in the preterm babies, and how that has affected and led to the serious side effects, and why it is important that we carefully select our excipients to be included in our dosage form. Well, the regulatory background has kind of promoted or has made it mandatory for us to think or carefully on what excipients and that the excipients is it of important? It is of very, very important, and we need to put in a thorough thought and a thorough background review when we think of putting an excipient into the pediatric formulation. There are several guidelines as well recently that have been published, which kind of justifies or reiterates that the use and the selection of the excipients should be justified. There are no more inert ingredients, and they need to be qualified by the existing safety data with respect to the different factors such as the level of exposure, duration of exposure, route of administration, and appropriate risk-benefit analysis needs to be done to avoid the excipients with the potential cause of concern, and have to justify the value of a novel excipient if you're thinking to add that into the pediatric formulation. So these are the guidelines. If you have a look into it, they'll provide you all this information on why it is important to think about justification of the selection of the excipients in the pediatric formulation. The guideline on the pharmaceutical development of medicines for pediatric use includes a section on the excipients, and it provides the hierarchy or a kind of a decision tree, which kind of guides you into what information sources you need to consult in order to assess the safety profile of each excipient in a pediatric formulation. And then basically coming into the overall conclusion whether you need more data to justify the use of it and what additional data you may be needed. So that's a good guideline that has been provided, good hierarchy that has been provided in the guideline. It also stresses that when you select the excipients, you need to think about the different factors such as the target age group, the dosage form that you're planning to use it in, what's the role of the excipient, do you really need that excipient, route of administration, daily intake, severity of the disease, composition that you're putting it in. So all these factors need to be thought thoroughly before you think, or when you think of adding an excipient into the pediatric formulation. And all this needs to be done with respect to the appropriate risk-benefit analysis, and especially if you're planning to put in a new excipient, that is very, very key that you perform the appropriate risk-benefit analysis on the excipient. There you go. There is some recent, and this is just for your information, I thought it would be good for you to know that the recent paper which was published by the EMA, it is 2018, but still kind of mentions that the prioritization or the use of the excipients is mainly based on the prior use in the drug products. So if you see, if they've got a nice table, Piotr has got a nice table here which kind of puts in a priority wise on the excipients, on the use of the excipients in the product and the reason why it has been used. So if you look into the first one, the excipients previously used for the identical route of administration at the same or higher concentration, these excipients tend to be used in it. And why? Because they can be used without any additional toxicological evaluations, little or no need of supplying additional information in support of the regulatory approval, and hence they are considered first. Then second in the list is the excipients that are previously used for the identical route of administration, where only limited additional preclinical evaluation might be needed, and so on. And then the sixth in the list comes a new excipient. The people tend to, or the formulators tend to use the new excipient only if it is necessary. And the reason behind that is that extensive preclinical evaluations have to be performed to demonstrate its stability. The pharmacokinetics of the new excipients has to be determined, and that is a long process, and not only long, but it is a costly process as well. So the aim is to avoid the additional risk and the delays in the approval of a new drug product, as well as to maintain the low development cost. And on that basis, the selection of the excipients or the prioritization of the excipients is based. Okay, and this is another good paper which was again published last year, which kind of gives the nice algorithms and the flow to make the decision on the use of the excipients in terms of the risk. So you can calculate the risk associated with the dosage forms, with the functional purpose of the excipient, and the daily intake of the excipient. I won't go into the details about this, but I've got the paper here, so I can go into details and see. But it is a very good, it's a good paper which gives you the good guideline on how we can select, or what are the things you can, it would help you with the decision and the selection of the excipients. This is just again to reiterate that, especially when it comes to the pediatric population, we all know that they have the special needs in terms of the physiological development. So when you look into including the excipients for the pediatric, we need to consider, in terms of the formulation, we need to consider the dosage form, the excipient functionality, the exposure, route of administration, and that should be done in line with the physiological development of the pediatric patient, because the way they handle the xenobiotics is not the way would be same as that is handled by the adults. So that differs, the way they metabolize or the way they eliminate the drugs would be not as same as that of the that in the adults. We need to take all this thing into consideration, the immature blood-brain barrier, the immature liver, all that immature immune system. All this needs to be taken into consideration when you think about including the excipients, the dose exposure relationship, and then assess the risk with all these factors into picture, and then appropriately select the excipients for the pediatrics. This is just to say, in terms of the clinical context, it's just to highlight that the risk benefit assessment is very important, especially if you want to understand the risk in context of the clinical scenarios. So we need to, what do we know about the excipients? What do we don't know about it? Or what do we need to know given in the particular scenarios? So we need to assess all this information so that we can make the appropriate mitigations or the mitigations to mitigate the risk to the patients. Okay, so that's all very important, and this is where the risk benefit assessments plays a key role in it. So that was in terms of the clinical, but if you think in terms of the formulators, when they select the excipients or use the excipients, what are the information would they look for? So this is the survey which was performed by the Colocon with the formulator working on the pediatric medicines. And they found that the information such as the technical data, obviously the technical data was the high percentage of the respondents asked for the technical data information, but after that is the toxicity data, the safety information, ADI information, and then the tolerability data. So that's very important. You can see here is that people are after this type of information, and they need this information to make the appropriate choice of the excipients for the pediatrics. So when you do all that, when you have to know all this information, you need to do the risk assessment, understand what are the problems can an excipient cause, when does an excipient cause this problem in terms of situation, dose, are there any alternatives, how much is the child likely to be exposed to it, and what should we do about it? To answer all these questions, we need to go through a thorough review of the background information, what's available in the literature, so that we can make the informed decision on the excipient to be included into the pediatric. However, there are many information sources in the public domain, and none of them are pediatric specific. And this is where the STEP database comes into picture, or the STEP database was being developed, or the need was highlighted by the EUPFI and USPFI. And then we collaboratively developed this database so that we can improve the accessibility of the information. And not only that, but highlight the information gap in the excipients in pediatrics. So what this is a bit of going into the details about the STEP database now. It's basically the user design database, which includes the information about the preclinical data, clinical data, in vitro data, regulatory information, toxicological reviews. So though we say it is the safety and toxicity excipients for pediatrics, that doesn't mean that it only has information about the about pediatrics or about children. It does have the data, it has the preclinical data, it has the clinical data in terms of the adults as well, and it has got the in vitro data as well, because we do appreciate that there is very limited information about the excipients in the pediatrics. The importance was really underestimated, so they were not much studied in the pediatrics. So there is very limited information. And hence what we thought was, if there is no information available for the pediatrics, at least you can refer to the adult data. If there is no adult data, then you can refer to the animal data, and so on. And hence we kind of thought of having all this information in one place so that you can make the appropriate decision when you have to select your excipient to justify the safety assessment of the excipients in pediatrics. All this information is gathered from the different sources. We wanted to put all this in one umbrella. So we've used several databases. We have actually looked into, and we collect this information from around 150 to 200 sources. And if you want, I can give you the list of the sources as well. But this is just to give an idea. It is from the databases, handbooks, encyclopedias, textbooks, journal articles, reviews, which we take from the databases as well, patents, conferences, government and toxicological websites. So all these different sources have been looked into when we gather the information for the STEP database. The key part is that all this information is manually curated. We do have the 3 levels of quality check, so we try our best to minimize any errors in the database or the data that has been added to the database. But I would like to just give a heads up that this is a manually curated database, so if there is any error, please let us know and we will make the changes or correct it as soon as possible. It is ontology driven, which means it helps to, it eases the search of the database. And I'll show you that when I demonstrate the database to you. The data fields were all designed by the user, and which is where I say it is a user designed database. So we have done especially an exercise where we did a survey with high number of people people in the pediatric drug development community, understanding what are the needs, what do they use the information for, where do they use the information for, what sort of fields they would be looking for or searching for in the database, and depending upon that, we designed it, or we decided the elements of to be included in this database and the data fields that were then further designed into this database. Each and every data in this database is supported by a specific reference. So if there is no reference to any data, we don't include that, because then that is no useful. If there's no data, you can't rely, no reference, you can't rely on that information. So every information in this database will be supported with a specific reference, and we do give the links to this reference so that you can go back and trace the original reference of the data that's included into this database. Okay, this is just to give you the idea about the purpose of this database. Yeah, mainly it was the knowledge base, so that it helps with the rapid information retrieval, but it is also for the pharmaceutical scientists to screen and select the excipients, as I've been stressing that all the way now. It is also to support in the application of computational tools for predicting toxicity. This is where when you take the data and if you put it in the Excel, you can then play with it, you put it in the computational tools or whatever, but it will help you, or it will provide you in data in that format so that you can further export that data into your tools and use it the way you want it. Obviously, it was one of the main aims was also to support the regulatory filings and support with the risk management planning when you have to put the excipients into the pediatrics. It provides us a basis for assessing the need for generating new data. So as I said, it will highlight the gaps in the data, existing data, and that way provide a basis for doing new studies and generating new data for the pediatric medicines. And then again, when you export the data, it will give you the highlight, or it will highlight any relationship between the excipient exposure and the evidence of clinical significant toxicity in the pediatric age group. Okay, so the database was launched in 2014 with just 10 excipients. It was the pilot database that we launched in 2014. It is hosted by UCL. It is supported by EUPFI and sponsoring excipients. So when I say supported by EUPFI, the maintenance of the database is supported by the EUPFI, but addition of the new excipients is supported by our scheme, which we have introduced, and it's called a sponsor and excipient. And that's where we add new excipients into this database. I've kind of listed this 3 papers on the database here. It's really useful. One of them will tell you into details on how to access this database. It will tell you about the need assessment study, on what information, how did we kind of populated this database, came up with the idea and so on, and how people are finding. So it starts from the idea to the reality and how people are finding it. So the usability study tells you more into how people are finding this database, what information, new information they're looking into this one. And 3,000 users from the industry, academic, and 44 countries are actually using this database. And the papers are open access. I'll give you more information about how to do the searches. It does allow the search by excipient, by clinical, but then I'll show you more of that on the demonstration. It will be more helpful to see it when I demonstrate that. Just a caveat, the database extracts the information as is from the publication. So we don't provide any critical appraisal, no summary. We don't alter the data. We don't give our own comments into it. No, it is as is in the publication. So we just extract the excerpts from the publication and put it into the appropriate sections in the database. The idea is mainly to guide the efforts for the additional data analysis. So you can take this data, take it to your toxicologist, and then you can further do the detailed analysis. It's mainly the primary screening data. It aims to cover the maximum amount of the information of evidence, which is kind of scattered around the sources. So that helps that you have all this in one place. And we kind of encourage or say that it is the responsibility of the scientist to check and assess the data and the quality of the evidence before they use it. So though we have done the 3 layers of quality, but it is up to the scientist really to see if it is appropriate for you when you use the information from the database. The database is available from the EUP5 website. So as you can see here, it is www.eup5.org. If you go onto the screen on the home page, you'll see the step database there. If you click on there, it will take you into the screen, which looks something like that. And then you have to register. If you're a new user, you will have to register here. And if you're an existing user, you can just go on and link to it. What I'll do is I'll go into the demonstration so that I can show you then clearly. Okay, I understand this might be a bit small, so I'll try my best to maximize this. Can I do that? Yeah, let me try here. No. No, I can't maximize that. Let me zoom it. Okay, zoom in. There you go. So as you can see here, as I told you, the box here is mainly for the new user, and this registration information is just your email address, your organization, and this is more for us to understand who all are using this database, so that we can put in more information and make it more useful for the users. So and then if you need more feedback from you, if you want to add some more elements into this database, it does help us to get the feedback as well. So it does help to get that information, but we don't share this information with anyone. So, and it's all confidential with us. So it's mainly your email address and your organization and your name. So once you've got the email address, you just log into it. But before I go into it, the information here helps you to understand what this database is all about. The quick links are very good. They do help you to, the newsletter tells you what new excipients are added into this. There are slightly some known issues, so it will help you to know what these known issues are. And then we have provided some video tutorials as well. So in case if you get stuck with something and you don't know how to search it, you can then go through the video tutorials to look on how to search the database. Okay, there are some FAQs and so on, the user guide, everything is there to help you with the use of this database. But if you want, I'm always just an email across to you. So if you need information, you can always write to me and I'll get back to you. So there you go. Once you enter into the database, you'll see that there are the options here which says search by excipient and search for excipient. So there are 2 options which I have given here. Is that for the search by excipient, if you know already what excipient you want to put into your product and you are after the safety toxicity information, for example, I know I want to include aspartame and I would like to see the data for the aspartame, I can just select aspartame. If there are more than one, you can just press the control button and use it. All the instructions are available on the side here as well. But yeah, you can press the control button to select multiple excipients, so you can search by multiple as well. At the moment, if I say aspartame and click the submit button, it will take me into the data. That's one. But before I do that, I would like to show you the search for excipient. Now, search for excipient is more for the clinical to filter the data or search the excipients based on the clinical and non-clinical data. So if I would like to know what excipients are used in children by oral route and have an effect on the digestive system, if I do that and click submit, it will give me the list of the excipients that are used in children, that are used in children orally and have the effect on the digestive system, or have the studies which have reported the effect on the digestive system. And once you do that, if you click all and click submit, it takes you into the data. And similarly for the non-clinical studies, there are certain filters available. If you select those filters, if you were after some species, you would like to see what species are used for chronic toxicity studies or something, you can use the data accordingly as well, use the database search as well. So once you go into the result page, I hope this is clear. If not, Bob, let me know. I can maximize it more. But there you go. So that's the search page. Yes, Bob? Okay. So that's the search page of the database. And once you come to there, you will see here is that the first section is more about the general information about the database, which gives it the excipient functional role, pharmacopoeial status, regulatory status. So you'll see that we've got the information according to the agency, the description of the regulatory status, permitted functionality, use limits, reference, and as I said, the link to the reference. You'll see all that there. All the list is tabulated, so it's easy and nice and easy for you to quickly screen through the information and have a glance, key synonyms. That this helps while researching as well. And the acceptable daily intake. Now, what we've done for the acceptable daily intake here is that we've got the general acceptable daily intake, and if there is any specific information about the pediatrics, then we kind of separate it out and put this in a separate section which calls as acceptable daily intake for pediatrics. So that way you will have the information for both of them in this database. Okay, and once you've done with that, the revision date tells you when the data was added into this database or when the data was revised. Instead of added, I would say when it was revised. And then after that, what we've done here is we have organized data as you would see your Excel sheet. So to make it very simple for the users to use it, it is just like your Excel sheet. You will have different tabs here, which is the clinical data, non-clinical data, in vitro data, regulatory data, and the reviews. If you want to go further and filter this data, you can also filter it. So now that we had searched only with children, so we had your children only, but if I clear all the filters, would it do that for me? No. Yeah, it did that. So if I clear all the filters here, you can see, no, that's it. So it's all for the children because we had filtered it according to children. But if I want to see only the randomized studies, I can just, like we do it in Excel, I can click here and say, okay, and it will show me only the randomized studies. Or the other way could be, select all, okay. That's the oral because we filtered it according to the oral, and so on. And then the effect on the digestive system. So as we said, it's filter the data according to that. It gives you the safety toxicity information, the dosage form that it was there, and the small conclusion or the from the study that we have curated the data from, the reference to it, whether it was journal article, report, and then the reference year. Similarly, for the non-clinical study, you'll see here is that you would have all the data for the non-clinical study here. If you want to filter it according to different species, you can filter it there. Or if you want to do it by study type, you want to see the carcinogenicity studies, you can just filter it there and select carcinogenicity and it will filter the data for you. Or if you want to look into only the juvenile studies, you can just go there and see the juvenile studies and it will filter the data for you, and so on. So that way you can filter wherever it says select, you can filter it by route, by duration, by frequency of administration, by system organ, by dosage form, and so on. And then it gives you the adverse effect information, the conclusion, and the comments. Similarly for the in vitro data. For the regulatory, because this information is more of the reports, it cannot be curated. If there are single studies, we curate them. But if they are kind of review articles or the reports, then we just give the link to those reports and put them there. These are the reviews. Again, the individual studies from the reviews are curated, but then apart from that, we put the reviews here as well because sometimes that's really helpful to give you the summary of the excipients. So we've got all the reviews here as well. Okay. So that is really all about the database and how it works and what information it has in it. And the other functionalities, as I told you can export the data. Again, when you want to export the data, you can be selective if you want to only the acceptable daily intact, or you want only the clinical data, but you want only the age and the exposure or age and the route and the adverse effect. You can select that accordingly, export it to Excel or export it to PDF the way you want it, and you can export the data. Okay, there is a user guide here as well. If you get stuck on anything, it helps you. The help button also will guide you into stage that you are stuck in it, and so on. Okay, so going back into my slide now, what I will be doing, and I've put that here, that we do have the workshop which is organized by the MCRC and IQ. It is on June 18. And I will be demonstrating. I will have a tabletop there, and we'll be doing a live demonstration there. So if you attend the planning to attend the workshop, do visit me. And if you have any questions, more questions related to how you work on it, or I can show you some more queries and run some more queries with you on how this exactly works, and show you the usability of this database. The current status of the database, as you can see, it has a direct pediatric relevance because it has got all the pediatric data in it. It is currently populated with 75 excipients, and the further excipients are added into it as they are sponsored. I've got the names of the sponsors that have sponsored the excipients into this database. I've missed the information of Bill and Melinda Gates, but they recently sponsored 10 excipients which are used in the dosage forms for the developing countries, and we've included that excipients into this database now. If you are interested in any of the excipient, and if it is not included in the database, we can do the search and curate the information for you. And this is actually at a very, very minimal cost of 1.5 to 3K per excipient, which is very minimal for the industry if they want to have the excipient or get the data for the excipient into this database for yourself to justify the use of the excipient. If you need more information on the sponsor and excipient, let me know and I'll send you all the information to you. So thanks. So that was all about the demonstration in terms of the database. This is just a final wrap up to kind of reiterate that what excipients are. They are the integral part of our almost every medicinal product. They were regarded safe, but now acknowledge that they are not. The current regulatory expectation is that the choice of the excipient should be subjected to thorough assessment of the risk associated with the safety, quality, and function. In terms of the selection of excipient, what is saying? For any excipient, I think so, you should be thinking, what do I actually need it? Do I actually need that? What technical function is it serving? Is there any better alternative? Is this the best way of achieving the required result? What is the lowest amount I can use? And obviously, what are the costs associated with it, with the use in terms of the financial, technical, toxicological, pharmacokinetic? But then what is different for the pediatrics? When it comes to for the pediatric formulation, there are additional questions that you need to think of in it. And the main thing is, do I really need it? What is the evidence that it is safe in the age group? What effect is pediatric physiology likely to have on the ADME of the medicine, ADME of the excipient itself, potential of the excipient to affect the GI tract and other pediatric development? What is the regulatory view likely to be, and what is the user view likely to be? So these are just in my final kind of thoughts on having the points to consider when you have to think of adding the excipients into the pediatric formulation. Information sources, there are other key ones as well. So STEP database is a quick plug to get the quick information for you. But then yes, the excipient manufacturer, but be sure that you're clear where they get the information from. You understand that the information they give you, and obviously the information actually answers the question that you have asked. Excipient handbooks, we call it Bible of for us, and yeah, that is really useful. It provides very useful technical information, but then it has very little directly relevant pediatric info. FDA 2D database, it is helpful, but yeah, again, it does not have the pediatric information, and there are some limitations which are being discussed at the moment. So hopefully this will be improvised and the suggestions and will be taken on by the board, and we hope to see addition to this database in terms of its relevance to the pediatric information. And obviously then each company has their own databases and experts which they tend to use. So thank you very much. I'm open for the questions and hope you found this session helpful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Smita, for this presentation. A tremendous amount of information and a lot of useful information in addition to the STEP database itself with regard to how to strategically think about the choice of excipients in pediatric formulations. So at this point, again, thanks to Smita, and we're open for question and answer. If you have questions, you can please just go ahead and type in as Mahalaya had directed early, and to get us kicked off, one question quickly, Smita, is how frequently is the data in the existing database updated or curated?
Well, we try to update the information on the quarterly basis, but then if there is no new excipient information of the data, it actually is linked with the new excipients that we add into this database. So if there is no new information or no new excipient to be added into the database, then that might take a bit longer, but we try our best to update it on a quarterly basis.
Great, thank you. We saw on one of the last slides that you talked about being able to sponsor an excipient and some of the cost associated, the minimal cost associated with that. Can you talk to the timing associated and the process associated with how a sponsor or someone would go about requesting adding the excipient to the database?
Yeah, sure. With this sponsor and excipients scheme, what we do is once, if you're interested in it and if you write to me about it, we do a rough kind of search for you in 1 or 2 databases to see how much references can we get for that excipient that you want to add into this database. And it's mainly dependent upon the number of the references that we have to screen and that we base this quote on. So if it is between 500 to 1,000, it comes to 1.5K, but then anything more, it goes slightly up, but then it goes to maximum 5K for 10,000 references. So once once we get the green signal from the company, yes, that they would like to go ahead with it, and the quote is approved, then we have the different teams here. So there is the information retrieval team that would go into all these databases or the list of sources that we have identified, and I've done the extensive research on it. So we've got the appropriate methodologists to do the searches into different resources that we have identified. So the information retrieval team does go into it and performs the searches. Then there is a data curation team who, the information retrieval team actually also looks into screening the references. So looking into what is relevant to be included into the database, the irrelevant just goes away, but then we collect the list of the references that are irrelevant as well, just in case the companies interested in it for the other purpose. The relevant information is then passed on to the data curation team. They secure the full text articles, and then they go into this full text articles and curate each and every information according to the fields that I showed you into the database. Once it's done, it goes to the review team who reviews the information, and then it comes to me for the quality assurance. So I then do the quality assurance for it, and whole this process, it kind of takes anywhere between 3 to 4 months. But that again, I'm saying 3 to 4 months if there are a really high number of excipients. If there are less numbers, like if it is between 500 to 1,000, it doesn't take much time. Between 1 or 2 months, it's done and it will be there in the database.
Great, thank you. One other question on a little different thought. From a strategic standpoint, you had one slide in there that addressed the fact that, particularly from a regulatory perspective, there's a lot of emphasis on only including excipients into formulations on a need basis. In other words, there has to be a specific reason for inclusion of an excipient into a formulation. We also know that there's been a lot of conversation over the years in industry and with regulators around the notion of acceptability of formulations. In those instances, if it's a situation where the excipient is present to enhance or improve stability or maybe improve the in vivo performance of the product, there's a pretty clear driver rationale for including the excipient. But for example, a sweetener or a flavor or some other excipient that may be present to improve the acceptability of the product, but maybe not necessary for the effective use of the product. Can you share your thoughts on how one might make a decision as to whether to include an excipient for that type of use in a formulation?
I think so in that case, for the excipients such as sweeteners or the preservative, first of all, you have to keep it to the minimum. So try your best if you can keep it to the minimum. And if you really want to kind of add it to improve the acceptability, if you're able to justify why you want to do that, probably that would be then acceptable by the regulatory agencies. So they really look into the justification, on a strong justification. And if you have if the excipient is used in the appropriate level and not in the high amounts, then probably that would be acceptable. But then I said, it really needs to be minimal. And if that's the case, that might be considered if you provide the appropriate justification on why it has been added, appropriate level has been used, then yes, that might be considered. But
Great,
yes,
thank you.
I would say that it is encouraged to keep it to minimal.
Thank you for that. So I'm looking at the clock. We've got about 5 minutes left. I don't have any additional questions that have been submitted. So Mahalia, I think I'll turn it back over to you to wrap up and where the recording may ultimately be made available. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Smita, for a great presentation on the database. I would like to invite everyone on the phone to either submit your last questions via the question bar, or feel free to use Smita's email address there. She's provided it on the slide that's on the screen if you have any questions after the webinar concludes. The recording of this webinar will be posted on the IQ Consortium's website under events, and if you could just search for STEP database, you'll be able to find it. We will also send a link around for those who are unable to attend the webinar, and they will be able to listen to it on demand. Once again, I'd like to thank Smita Solanke and Bob Turnick for presenting and moderating today's webinar. I invite you all to return to the IQ webinar series in September and look for additional offerings from the Drug Product Pediatric Working Group and other IQ leadership groups on the IQ website. Thank you all very much. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Mahalia, and thanks, Bob. Thank you very much.